took my beginner build into the Outlands with 5 of the strongest starter weapons in Albion Online. While putting together this guide, I made almost 20 million silver. If you're new or returning to Albion and need a cheap setup that gets your progress going fast, this video is for you. These are the weapons every solo beginner should know. They work in both PvE and PvP, and they'll let you farm tons of fame and grind millions of silver in a way that's affordable, reliable, and proven. I've played Albion for nearly 10 years and tested hundreds of builds so you don't have to. These 5 weapons are all regular weapons, so no artifact price spikes to suddenly make them expensive, and they come with timeless abilities that are proven to be effective, which means they'll always stay viable and affordable. And for each weapon in this video, I'll also show you the best abilities to start with, when to swap them, and what to use in different situations. Now, if you're wondering about the build itself, I already made a full guide that covers everything. Abilities, swaps, strengths, and when to use each option. And that build actually works with any weapon. So if you haven't seen that yet, check it out after this video. I also showcased the same build in a solo roam with the regular bow, where I made 5 million silver in just 3 hours. And I'll be releasing another roam soon where I use the other 4 weapons from today's list. That one brought in over 13 million. And all of that in cheap 4.1 sets that barely cost anything. So through my guides, you're not only learning the build, you're also seeing the proof of how it performs in real situations. So let's jump into it. Quick question before we start. Which weapon are you running right now? Drop your pick in the comments. I'll be reading through them, and I'll even drop a few premium codes to some of you as a bonus. At number 5, we've got the Battle Axe. This weapon is a sustain monster. With steady, reliable damage and strong damage over time effects, you'll tear through solo camps, open world bosses, small group pulls, basically all solo PvE content while healing yourself at the same time. For beginners, that self-heal means you'll die less, farm fame more efficiently, and stack way more silver in your pocket. The Battle Axe works not only in PvE but also in PvP, and is widely considered one of the top solo picks in the game. And the cool thing is, even though it's a melee weapon, the ultimate is ranged. You can throw your axe twice back to back. The first hit chunks for big damage, and the second hit gives you massive sustain. On top of that, you've got mobility from your secondary slot, and once you level it up, your primary even adds crowd control, which makes it a solid pick for PvP too. It's simple enough for new players to pick up, and it scales as you get better. That's what makes it one of the safest ways to level your character and build your economy. If you want safety, consistency, and guaranteed progress without ever having to skip a legendary chest boss, the Battle Axe is your best friend. And if you're wondering about the abilities, here's what I'd recommend. On your primary, until you unlock Rending Rage, use Rending Strike for single targets and Rending Spin when you need AoE. On your secondary, Adrenaline Boost is the go-to for almost everything, because it gives you mobility and huge damage buffs. The other abilities are viable too, and you can swap into them for specific situations if they give you an edge. For your passive, go with Deep Cuts if you want more DPS, which is my go-to, or Life Leech when you need more sustain. At number 4, we've got the Dual Swords. Mobility is everything in Albion Online, especially when you're still learning the game. With the Dual Swords, you get smooth damage, strong utility, and one of the fastest, most fluid playstyles in the game. Your ultimate is a massive gap closer that launches you straight onto enemies while making you fully immune to crowd control until impact. It deals solid AoE damage on hit, and then it buffs your auto attack speed and auto attack damage. For roaming the Outlands, chasing targets, or escaping tricky fights, having that much freedom on your ultimate makes this weapon incredibly valuable. And it doesn't stop there. The go-to secondary ability, Blade Cyclone, gives you mobility on top of strong damage. Even your primary skill grants you movement speed buffs. With all 3 abilities on short cooldowns, you've basically got movement built into every button. That's what makes Dual Swords so fun, fast, and flashy. The attack speed buffs, the constant movement, plus the CC immunity. It all combines into a weapon that makes you feel quick and dangerous even in a budget set. It's easy enough for beginners to pick up, but it stays effective at every stage of the game, in both PvE and PvP. If you want speed, impact, and the ability to control when and where fights happen, dual swords are your best option. Now here's how I usually set up the abilities. On your primary, go with Heroic Strike for PvP and bosses, and only consider Heroic Cleave if you're farming big AoE packs. Personally, I stick with Heroic Strike all the time because it's just more effective. On your secondary, Blade Cyclone is the default in both PvE and PvP, since it gives you both damage and mobility. In PvE, Parry Strike is amazing against bosses and tough mobs because you reflect damage while becoming immune yourself, which makes clears much safer and faster. Interrupt can also be great against bosses with lots of abilities, letting you cancel their strongest casts. So depending on the situation, you'll swap between those three in PvE. For PvP, everything is viable, but if you're unsure, Blade Cyclone is the safest pick. For passives, Deep Cuts is my go-to for extra damage in every situation, but the others are worth reading and swapping into if they fit your fight. At number 3, we've got the regular bow. This weapon is already battle tested. It's the one I personally used to make millions of silver in just a few hours of solo roaming. If you want to play as an archer who chips enemies down from range, and you're the type of player who enjoys kiting and dodging as the real test of skill, the regular bow is one of the best silver printers you can start with. The strength of this weapon is how simple it feels to use while still scaling really well. You've got strong single target damage, reliable sustain through kiting, and the ability to clear all PvE content with ease. It also works surprisingly well in PvP when you position smart and use your range to your advantage. It's easy for beginners to pick up, but it really rewards practice. The more you play it, the sharper your positioning, your kiting, and your kill pressure become. If you want simplicity that grows into serious power, the regular bow is the weapon for you. Here's how I usually run it. On your primary, Deadly Shot is my go-to for consistent damage and the debuff, but Poisoned Arrow is excellent for single target pressure. If you need to keep enemies away, Multi-Shot is an option too. In PvE, Deadly Shot is the best pick. On your secondary, Frost Shot is the default in open world and PvP because it gives you mobility, letting you kite, disengage, or chase when needed. If you don't need that extra mobility, Ray of Light is great for burst damage and crowd control. For faster PvE clears, Ray of Light or Explosive Arrows both work great. Your ultimate is Enchanted Quiver, which massively boosts your auto attacks and lets you strut bosses and players alike. It even comes with a recast dash that adds to your kiting, which feels fantastic once you get the rhythm down. For passives, I usually stick with Energetic to cover energy sustain, so I don't need to sacrifice another slot for it. But if energy is already covered in your build, check the other passives and pick what gives you the most value for the situation you're in. At number 2, we've got the One-Handed Spear. This weapon is a solo player powerhouse. It delivers consistent damage, strong dueling potential, solid mobility and crowd control, and the flexibility to perform in both PvE and PvP. The strength of the spear is its balance. Your primary gives you strong poke and auto attack buffs, your secondary adds reliable DPS and a slow, and your ultimate doubles as mobility and an interrupt. Put it all together and you've got a weapon that can farm fame, build silver, and win fights in the Black Zone. It's straightforward enough for beginners to pick up, but it rewards timing and precision. The better you space your enemies and land your abilities, the stronger it becomes. If you want a reliable weapon that blends damage, range, mobility, crowd control, and versatility, the One-Handed Spear is your best pick. Here's how I usually run it. On your primary, Lunging Strike is my go-to for steady damage and pressure. Keep your stacks up to buff your auto attacks and make sure to weave those autos in because they're a huge part of your DPS. On your secondary, Impaler is the default in both PvE and PvP since it deals good damage and adds crowd control with a slow. Until you unlock it, Forest of Spears is the best option for AoE damage. In PvE, it's either Forest of Spears or Impaler. In PvP, every option has value depending on your opponent, but Impaler is the safest default. For the passive, I usually run Life Leech for extra sustain, which pays off in both PvE and PvP. At number 1, we've got a weapon most beginners and even a lot of content creators completely overlook: the one-handed Arcane Staff. At first glance, Arcane looks like a pure support weapon, but in solo play it's incredibly strong because of the utility it brings. With its ultimate, Arcane Orb, you can purge enemy buffs and silence them at the same time, which can completely flip a fight. The value of this weapon is that it doesn't rely only on damage. It gives you tools to control fights, punish buff-heavy enemies, and survive situations where most weapons would fail. That makes it a hidden gem for solo players who want an edge in PvP. And the PvE clear is not nearly as bad as people think. The abilities synergize really well, boosting each other's effectiveness and making the weapon much smoother to farm with than you'd expect. It's easy to pick up, but the better you time your purges and kite, the more duels you'll turn into your favor. If you want a weapon that keeps you alive, punishes enemies who rely on buffs, and turns losing duels into wins, the one-handed Arcane is your secret weapon. Here's how I usually play it. On the primary, I take Chain Missile, which is a reliable ranged poke for steady DPS. On the secondary, Enigma Blade gives you strong AoE damage plus a teleport for extra mobility. For the passive, I go with Lingering Power for the boost to auto attacks. The best part is that this entire setup is available at level 1, so you don't need to grind levels before the weapon feels effective. Other abilities and passives can also work depending on the situation, but this setup is strong in both solo PvE and PvP, and it gives you everything you need to get started right away. So there you have it. Battle Axe, Dual Swords, Regular Bow, One-Handed Spear, and the One-Handed Arcane. All 5 are cheap, all 5 are timeless, and all 5 fit perfectly with the starter build I already showed you. If you haven't seen that guide yet, check it out after this video. I'll link it right below. Now tell me, out of these 5 weapons, which one would you try first? Drop your answer below and tell me why you picked that one. Give this video a like if you got value out of it, and subscribe for more Albion content just like this. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next guide. Until then, fight smart and loot well.